This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. We are here with our old friend, Mr. Adam Lowy from Cloudsley Cellars. How are you today, sir?
Jamie, I'm doing very well. Great to see you.
Super great to catch up with you. We've been catching up a little before this official interview. We are here today to talk about the 2018 red releases that are currently available through Cloudsley Cellars website. We're talking about the 20 Mile Bench, the Cuesta Vineyard, the Glenelgan Vineyard, and the Park Vineyard.
Yeah, well, thanks, Jamie. We are currently still selling the 2018. We're about to run into the 2019 vintage in the next month or so. We're coming down to the end, but these wines are so fantastic, and it's so. It's always the way that when you get down to the last cases, that's when they're starting to drink the best, right? Yeah. When you release wine. So, and we don't rush our wines out. So we do, the reason why I haven't released some of the 19s yet is that I want to wait till they're drinking well, right? We don't make that much wine. So, but we're as I said, still got these three vineyards, three of the four single vineyards we made in 18 we've got, and they're drinking really well right now. So, the three vineyards are Glenelgan, Cuesta, and Park. And so, generally if we were tasting them right now, I'd pour the Glenelgan first. Glenelgan's a vineyard that's owned by the Wismer family. It's located just on the next level up on the bench, back to the east of the winery, about 900 yards or so from the winery. And thin soils, very little clay content in the soils. And in fact, the soils are so thin that at the north end of the vineyard, I think they had to drill in places just to keep the posts up because there's so little soil there. What that means and the vines are old by Niagara standards, in 1996 planting. And what that means is that, the vineyard's doesn't produce a huge amount of grapes. But what we get is a really nice core of red fruit with a really good underlying minerality, and it tends to be the lighter, a little lighter colored than some of the other vineyards, but beautiful wine and an incredible nose. And then right below it, just as you go through the trees and across the Bruce Trail and down to the same level as the winery, but of course further back, you have Cuesta Vineyard. And Cuesta is a really spectacular vineyard, not just for the wines, but visually, it's about the most beautiful spot in Niagara. It's all surrounded by trees, and you cannot see a building from the vineyard. It's just amazing. And so we get Pinot from the center portion of that vineyard, really nice. And despite being just adjacent to Glenelgan, because it's a little lower down the slope, and of course the soils are a little deeper, slightly more clay content, I believe. So you're getting a different character, and also a vineyard like Glenelgan that we tend to pick towards the end of our picking cycle. After some of the other vineyards, it's got a really quite a different character, broader in the palate than Glenelgan. And tends to have a different mineral component. I actually sometimes pick up even some iron notes in it, which I don't normally get in Niagara Pinot, but really, really cool. And again, one of the examples of that sort of difference in terroir that has led us to make all these different bottlings rather than throw out a reserve or whatever, And then we have the Park Vineyard, which is again a little closer to the winery, just a little to the north, and it's a wonderful vineyard and not very big, unfortunately, but there's a small amount available, and it tends to be the most muscular of the Pinots we get. That's in the context of our style, which is not a very
which is lighter style, yes,
which is sort of more classic Pinot rather than sort of jammy New World style.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Now, we've spoken before about the various clones that are planted here, but would you mind going over those again, please?
Yeah. So basically in Niagara, the most common clones you see of Pinot tend to be 667, 777, 115, just 114 as well. Those are the ones that probably makes up the vast majority of the Pinot we make. Right. And I'd say of those, 115 and 777 probably are the most, but Park has a mixture of 667 and 115, and then Hank Vineyard, which is right beside it, which will be, we had a very tiny single vineyard of in 18. We'll have quite a bit more in 19. That is 115 and 114. And then Glen Elgin's all 115, and so it's, you know, there's a mixture of vineyards, so or of clones, but they're all they tend to be primarily those 4 clones.
Right, that makes complete sense. And you also have your 20 Mile Bench Pinot, right?
Yeah, the 20 Mile Bench, which is sort of the next level. I should say that our single vineyard wines from 18, they're all $50 a bottle. And then we make that selection first. And then after we've pulled out, usually somewhere around anywhere 1.5, 2 barrels to 4 barrels worth for each vineyard. Then we make a blend of the vineyards, and we take and that's sort of the most, in a way, the most challenging and the most satisfying part of the blending process, right, is trying to get 20 Mile Bench blend, because we're really trying to get something that captures both, you know, the terroir of the region in general, but also something that you know is very much within the style that I like, which is, you know, and so trying to get a wine, and as you know, because I know you've been through these blending exercises, the tiniest addition of a barrel can make can be the difference between something that's really good and something that truly sings. And you know, so our blending process is we sort of do it. There's a few of us at the table, and we do it over and over again. I mean, this last one we just went through it with our 20s a couple months ago. I think we had 10 sessions of blending to before we nailed it. So it does take a while. So that 20 Mile Bench is still a small production, but it's the core. It's sort of the top blend of the vineyards. And then after that, we make our Niagara Peninsula bottling, which is not available at the winery. We just sell it to licensees. And so it's something you might see at a restaurant near you, but and that makes up the majority of what's left after we blend the 20 Mile Bench. But there's always something that doesn't even make it into that.
You're declassifying all of that single vineyard fruit all the way through, right?
Absolutely. And that's, so every wine, every barrel starts off with the hope of being a single vineyard wine.
Yeah.
You know, so everything we're doing right now is from 20 Mile Bench. So it all could end up in any level. The issue for us is that, you know, the way we make wine in Chardonnay, it's you know, the barrel fermented, but everything Chardonnay and Pinot, they're barrel aged for 18 months, and you can put the same wine in 2 different barrels, and even if they're barrels from the same cooper with the same specs, they're going to be different wines after. Of course, yeah. Of course, if you add that's with a Pinot that you're maybe fermenting together. If you add in the variable of a single barrel fermentation in the case of Chardonnay, they're even more different. And so when you have all those barrels, all those options, some are going to be better than others, and so we'll go through and we'll pick out our best barrels. We'll do we'll make a ABC or star system or whatever, where, you know, and you think right off the bat, it's like, okay, let's try the best ones together. But rarely does that actually work, because so you'll end up with maybe some of the best barrels, and then you'll need a component from something that on its own wasn't one of the ones that tasted the best, but it brings something to the party, you know. So that's why it's you know, people wouldn't believe how much we pick over this for such a small amount of wine. But it really does make a difference. And you know, we'll go so far as to tweak the new oak level 2% at a time and do tastings, like, you know, try it at 25, 27, 30.
Find that sweet spot for that wine.
Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing. It's amazing how much of a difference that really does make.
So you've got your fruit source, to create these terroir-driven wines. Then you have the barrel selection. Does the vinification differ at all when you're getting the fruit from these different vineyards?
In theory, no. Like as far as our philosophy, we don't say, okay, Park's going to get treated this way, Glen Elgin's going to get treated this way. Right. But as you watch a fermentation, of course, some might require different things than others. And that's really with, in Pinot Noir, that cap management and, whether you're pumping over, whether you're punching down, how aggressively you're doing this. That's really, I think, where most of the art comes in with this. And I have to admit, I make the vineyard choices and I make the barrel choices, but I don't, that's Matt Smith, our winemaker, who's doing that. And he has some great experience with it at this point. He's got it, a real intuition about how to do that. And that is a really an important part of the process. So my hat's off to him, because it really does, it makes a really big difference.
That's basically managing the individual ferments, right?
Absolutely, because you've got we're all wild ferments, or what people call wild ferments. I know there's some debate about that term, but we're not inoculating with a commercial yeast, and so every fermentation is different. So yes, the way we approach it is the same for every vineyard, but each as we taste every day going through the fermentation, how we treat it will be different, but it's not, that's dictated by how the fermentation's going, not by the vineyard source, if that makes sense.
Indeed. And speaking of vinification, I believe you have a rosé just about to be released.
Yeah. Not your audience may be among the first to figure that out, or to find that out.
Oh, I didn't know. Was that supposed to be a surprise for people?
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, it'll be released within the next week or so. The story is that last year in 2000, for the 2020 vintage, we have some a very small block in front of the winery of Pinot that was yielding its first fruit. Well, of course, third leaf fruit, we're not putting it in our Cloudsley Pinot at that point. It's very simple. There also was a very small quantity of it.
Right.
So we made like 10 or 11 cases of rosé just for friends and family.
Yes.
We didn't sell it. It was just something that but the response both with the friends and certainly with the family, everyone was telling me that we needed to have more. So I don't want it to be sort of a big part of what we do. I'm very, Cloudsley is a very focused project. We're doing Pinot Noir and Chardonnay in a specific way, but it is Pinot Noir and it's good. And when it gets hot out, it's nice to drink rosé. So we're releasing about 40 cases or so in the next couple of weeks. And that'll be on our website, and you'll get it if your readers or your viewers are interested. They can sign up for our emails, and they'll be notified when it comes out. And it's really wonderful. It'll be $25. It's actually 20 Mile Bench appellation, and it's VQA 20 Mile Bench. It is 100% Pinot Noir, dry rosé, obviously. Not a lot of skin contact, essentially just in the press. So we're going for the colors, that very pale Southern French classic rosé color. It's certainly a more subtle expression, which is what I like.
Excellent. I'll look forward to that. Now, you said that you're coming to the end of the 2018 reds, and you will be moving in a month or so on to the 2019s. Would you mind comparing and contrasting those two different vintages for me?
Yeah, well, like you say in Niagara, no two vintages are alike, and that's certainly the case with the last set of vintages we've had. 18 was a warmer year, and certainly quite a ripe year. And in those years, to achieve the kind of style we want, we really have to make sure we're picking early and being a little more restrained in our winemaking, because I don't want big jammy wines. It's not where that's not what I like. So, and I, Cloudsley's all about making wines in a certain style, and that happens to be the style I like. So, so because I get to make the rules. So in 2019, in contrast, was a cooler year, and a remarkably high acid year. I don't know if you've tried 19s across the board, you'll find that all varietals had very, very high acids. The acids weren't dropping at the same rate they normally do as the sugars were climbing. For those who don't know, that's sort of what happens during harvest as the grapes ripen. You see that you're waiting for the sugar levels to and flavor levels to reach the best sort of balance with it before the acid drops too much. And in the best years, that all happens at around the same time, and you're in a really good spot. Some people don't like as high acid in wine as I do. And I know that Jamie, we've tasted enough over the last 25 years.
I'm with you on this.
You appreciate that too. So a vintage like that's wonderful for me, and particularly in Chardonnay. Like I would take 19 personally over 18 and 20, which are warmer years and vintages that are sort of maybe talked about a little bit more. And likewise in the reds, I mean, I think they're beautiful. Like I think they've got a really classic Burgundian character to them. They're not as they don't have as much broad fruit as the 20s and the 18s, but they're really, really fantastic. Tons of really classic Pinot character. Yep. And in that vintage, we've made 4 single vineyards as well. Slightly different. For the first time, we didn't release a Glen Elgin. It just worked better in the blend than it did on its own. Right. For us, the truth is, for me to put out a wine that's $50 a bottle, I've got to really believe it's worth that. And we couldn't get enough of a separation in that one from that 20 mile bench level. Yes, so it went into the blend in that year. But we do have a Homestead vineyard, Hank vineyard, Park vineyard, and Cuesta single vineyards 19. And we'll be rolling those out over the next few months. And then of course, we just released our single vineyard whites from 19, our Foxcroft vineyard and Wingfield vineyard, and they're fantastic.
Brilliant. Well, I'm looking forward to tasting these 2019s when they're released, and looking forward to trying this rosé, this new avenue of vinous pleasure from Cloudsley Cellars. Adam, thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution today. Good to catch up with you, and we'll see you soon, I hope.
Pleasure seeing you.
Take care. Bye for now.
Bye.